If you've been doing any kind of planting or lawn renovation, you really want to pay attention to this video because watering is the number one thing that is going to kill your plants or save the plants. So let's talk about it. Okay, with all the greenhouses that we have and the landscape construction, we know a little bit about watering. And I can't tell you enough. It is one of the projects, watering our crops is one of the projects that not a lot of people like doing. So I always stick it to the rookies. And it's actually the worst thing we could do because proper watering is definition of success. It doesn't matter what kind of plant you're growing. It doesn't matter what kind of drought conditions or wet conditions those plants like. If you don't have somebody watering that knows the basics and how to determine how much or how little to give, you're going to kill your crop. And in this particular case, it is when we're planting shrubs and when we're renovating lawns. This in particular year, we have lots of grub damage and lots of lawn damage, and people are renovating all over the place. But I have to say, the cool weather, the beautiful days that we've been getting, the dampness in the morning, it's all fooling. Mother Nature is shanghaiing you. If you're not paying attention to the ground in many places is powder. I have lawns that people have renovated 2 weeks ago and they're calling saying, why is it not growing? And I'm like, well, have you been watering? And they're like, no, that's why. So please do not get fooled by any passing showers or damp, cool weather or these mornings where there's a thick dew on the ground. 20 minutes after that sun pops out and the wind picks up, your grass seed does not know the difference. And if you've been planting shrubs or perennials in the fall, which is by means, this is the best time of year to plant anything. But you need to take a few extra precautions to baby those plants. And let's take a few looks on how I prefer to water when we're talking shrubs or specifically grass at this time of year. So I want to show you something. Right now, I've got a thick dew all over the grass. And we've been irrigating. I did a renovation on this lawn. But just coming around and poking around and really get up close. When I rub my hands over the grass, soaking wet. There's just, the grass is completely wet. But when you go and look at the ground itself, and I just poke around down here, it's powder. And that's with me irrigating probably 2 or 3 times a week. Whenever I think about it, I throw some water on it. But it's powder. So if I renovated this lawn and I dethatched and I overseeded this area, the grass is growing because down 3-4 inches, there's water down there. But the grass seed is right up on the surface. And it does not care what's going on 3, 4, 5 inches down. I mean, I'm a good solid inch and I'm still powder. And that's with me watering. And so that grass seed is just sitting around the surface. It does not know, it does not care what is 4 inches down. It only cares what's in the top 1/4 inch. So with these areas here, we need to water those areas on a regular basis. Okay, so in this particular case, if I'm planting shrubs and I have shrubs or perennials in the ground, I'm using soaker hoses. Run a soaker hose all through the lawn. It's a slow weeping watering process, but let those soaker hoses run for 2 hours, 3 hours. Really saturate that ground. And it's usually very obvious because you look at it, the ground will be saturated. For perennials and shrubs, doing that, I water every day for 2 weeks after a big planting. But after that, making sure it's saturated once a week is usually more than enough in the fall like this because there's moisture down deep and the plants are going dormant, so they're much more resilient. But with lawns, that sun is popping out. Depending on where you are, if there's a little breeze, that grass is going to dry off. The top 1/2 inch is going to dry off in 20, 30 minutes sometimes. So I prefer to run a sprinkler 2 to 3 times a day, if at all possible, if you have the means to do it. Now, lots of us, I recommend putting a timer in line if you already have a sprinkler in your hose. But I want to show you one of the sprinklers that I prefer because it's just so much easier. Okay, this is called an oscillating sprinkler. So when I run this, it's just going to slowly go back and forth. Now, one of the reasons I like these, Melnor is just one of the name brands. Doesn't matter the brand in my opinion. None of them are made like they used to. But it's the features that this one has. One, it has a built-in timer. What we don't want to do is overwater. We don't want to water the grass until the point where we're getting puddling water. This isn't bad. I wouldn't even see it because it's really an established lawn. I'm just renovating. But if this was all bare soil, I really only want to run it for 10-15 minutes just to dampen the top 1/2 inch. And these oscillating sprinklers are great for it because I can control with this. These controls control how far back and forth it goes. These controls here will control how far they go. And all I have to do is turn on the timer, and it's got a built-in timer. So I can turn this and I can set that for just 10, 15 minutes because I don't want to overwater. Now in this particular case, I'm trying to water this section of the grass, but you can see the nice steady streams of water, and they're gonna give lots of droplets. You can't really make it out, but it's giving lots of nice and uniform droplets all over the place. The last thing is, please do not water by hand. I have customers all the time that say, oh, I'm very in particular on how I'm gonna water. I'm gonna water it by hand. That gives me total control. You are never gonna do it uniformly enough. You are never gonna get it precisely enough, and you're gonna not have the patience to really saturate it. If it's spots, maybe you can walk around and just hit those spots. But if you've done any kind of lawn renovation, getting that seed up and running as early as possible and as fast as possible is the key to success. You get a hurricane, you get one of these big storms that come by, your seed could wash away. So getting something and setting a timer up on a sprinkler is by far the #1 way to do it. And it'll make all the difference in the world in your success. If not, we're just relying on Mother Nature. Most likely that seed will sprout in the spring, but you're gonna have to take other precautions to make sure the weeds are out of competition, and that's something we'll talk about in the spring. Hope that helps. Take care.